Kang, we have a whoa.
Oh.
I don't think this is a I think this is a whoa.
I'm ready, man.
Ian Rappaport, source, the Lions are releasing quarterback Nate Sudfeld, who spent plenty of time as the number 2 quarterback. Now it appears it's Hendon Hooker who has won the job. Sudfeld has impressed plenty in practice without a ton of game reps and will find his way into a practice squad at the least.
So this wouldn't have been a whoa had we not. I mean, the way they were talking about Sudfeld, he didn't even play the last preseason game. Maybe, okay, so what they did clearly the last preseason game was to make sure Hendon Hooker was ready. That's why they gave him all those reps, almost the entire game, right? No, seriously. Like,
yes.
We know what we have in Sudfeld. We know exactly what we have. You stay here.
I was just thinking back to what I said yesterday about this, and apparently we reached it yesterday. The tipping point. I said at some point we're going to reach a tipping point where Hendon Hooker, they deem him good enough to be their number 2 quarterback. And that tipping point apparently was either Sunday or Monday. Because here on Tuesday morning, according to Ian Rappaport, the Lions are releasing Nate Sudfeld. Whoa.
That leaves an open spot for a defensive lineman, a cornerback, you know?
It does.
Or wide receiver. I think Isaiah Williams has a much better shot of making the team now.
I mean, right now, Isaac Ukwu is like, I might make it.
Yes.
Or they've identified a player that they are going to pick up off the waiver wire.
To replace Sudfeld? Like another quarterback, you mean? Like
No.
Bailey Zappi is available.
Yeah, no, I would think it's a wide receiver.
Okay.
Do they want Isaiah Hudgens? Do they want Tim Patrick?
Sure. Allen Robinson.
Do they have another deal in place? I think this is really interesting. And you're right. The reason why this is a whoa was Dan Campbell's, what he had to say about him last week.
Going into that last preseason game, he said Nate Sudfeld had the upper hand, right?
Yes, he said it last week.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about it. Now, you can look at this a variety of ways. I know how this works. Some people say Dan Campbell was lying. I don't think that's the case. I think they were so impressed with Nate Sudfeld on Sunday. I came away impressed with Nate Sudfeld on Sunday. I didn't think he was perfect. But it's Hendon Hooker. You are the backup quarterback in Detroit. According to Ian Rappaport, Nate Sudfeld will be released. I'm not even going to ask this question because typically we do this under these circumstances. I just don't think it applies here. Typically we would say, is there going to be any ruining?
Dude, good luck. Unless Nate Sudfeld's family's listening. And no one's calling in, man.
I feel bad because Nate Sudfeld came in and he did his best and he was a part of the team and he was clearly a confidant and a sounding board for Jared Goff, all these things that they really liked about him. Mark Brunell liked about him. I don't want to trash the guy. But I don't know that we literally got one call saying, no, I think Nate Sudfeld, I think they're fine. I think some people accepted that he might be ahead of Hendon Hooker, and that might have been the case. I think Sunday might have been the tipping point.
I was going to tweet out one day, is there anyone, this was like, no sarcasm intended, is there anyone that thinks Sudfeld, should be the second quarterback? Like, who are the Sudfeld supporters?
Yep.
Because we never got that text. In fact, Doug, after the last preseason game, we got more support for Jake Fromm than Nate Sudfeld.
Who hasn't been cut yet.
Okay. Don't get carried away. That would be a whoa.
Well, this is enough of a whoa. Yeah. That would be another whoa.
So you think it's not to go get Bailey Zappi or Mike White or a quarterback that's been,
trade for
but this is more like get a receiver. Or open up a spot for Hudgens.
God, why am I blanking? Who's Gators guy? The kid that was with the Jets that was a
Zach
disaster.
Wilson?
Zach Wilson. Go get Zach Wilson. No, I don't think it's any of that. I think they're going to either put Nate Sudfeld or Jake Fromm on the practice squad.
Well, probably Sudfeld
If he gets through. And look, I mean, Rappaport speculated immediately that he will end up on someone's practice squad. But that I did not see coming that fast. Hold on, let me be correct. I saw it coming. I talked about it yesterday. I said there'd be a tipping point. I just was way off on when that tipping point would come. So there you go. Hendon Hooker did enough Sunday. He's the backup quarterback in Detroit. 248-539-9797. Carson Anderson, a big news there. I'm going to cross the name out. We now have, remember I said there were 15 obvious cuts?
You didn't have Sudfeld as an obvious cut.
There are still 15 obvious cuts. I did not put this in the obvious cut camp. But I'm working my way through the roster. Cross that name off. Hendon Hooker's your number 2 quarterback, Detroit. How do you feel about it? 248-539-9797. I'm excited. I'm excited because I liked a lot of what that kid showed on Sunday or Saturday. Said as much yesterday. He had a couple of throws where I was really impressed. Like the running thing, it feels like that, he doesn't look slowed at all physically or mentally for that matter by the knee injury. Really comfortable moving around the field. Probably needs to work on sliding. He did take another big hit this past weekend. But the quarterback in the incubator is already the number 2. And good for him. Good for him. And I think good for us.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Because that means they don't have to keep a third quarterback. They can make themselves better somewhere else. It's so funny when your football team is good and you're really straining over the last few spots on the roster, which is what we're doing.
You're absolutely right, Doug. That keeping 3 quarterbacks, really, like if you're trying to get to the next step, you need that spot. I don't care who it's for, but if you're solidified with Hendon Hooker as your backup, you feel confident. He's shown enough. He still has a ceiling, by the way, right?
Yep.
Yeah, go use that roster spot and someone else who can help this team get to the Super Bowl, man.